food, but we also want to be that place that has that feel you talk about, where a Friday night, a family says, where do we want to go out for dinner on a Friday night? You're not going to, no offense to Taco Bell, but you're not going to go have a family dinner in Taco Bell. It doesn't feel like the right feel.
You're listening to the Bar and Restaurant Podcast, where hospitality lovers come to listen and learn with expert David DiLorenzo.
And we're rocking with another Bar and Restaurant Podcast. Today, I have my guest, Tim Vasquez, who is the owner and what would you call your title? CEO?
I go with Presidente.
Yes. I like that. It's a lot better. Of Someburros. And he's got his hands in a few other things as well that we're going to get into. Hello, Tim.
Hey, Delo. How you doing?
I'm great. It's good to see you. We've known each other 6-7 years now?
I think so. Yeah, that's about right.
When I first got into the Someburros family, I remember sitting with your father, George, and I got a call from the restaurant association that was like, hey, there's a gentleman who owns Someburros who was, curious about insurance options. And I went down and I sat with your dad for literally an hour and a half at the location. I want to say it was the original location off of Baseline.
Yeah, Millen Baseline.
Yeah, and we sat there and we talked for an hour and a half on everything but insurance. It was so much fun, and so I fell in love with the aspect of what it was that you guys were doing, and how he was just so in love with his family and his life and just everything about it. And then fast forward, all of a sudden there's not all of a sudden, but for me, I'm meeting Tim. Right. I'm like, this dude's cool. He looks nothing like George.
No. I still remember when my dad met you, and he's like, oh, you got to meet this new guy, David, I just met. He's a great guy. You're going to love him. And you lived up to the hype.
Well, thank you. It's all about, as you know, it's about living a passion and just, feeling that energy and being able to, I don't even call it work with what we do on the insurance aspect and how we're able to, take care of each other. But it's being able to wake up and know that if I'm going to have a conversation with somebody such as yourself or your dad or anybody within, the new people that you brought on who I absolutely adore, it's joyful. You're excited to get on the phone and do that sort of thing. Business hasn't always been that way for any of us. Right. And I'm sure people listening right now can absolutely agree, and especially as you're younger and you're growing up and doing all that. So speaking of that, as we get into your young age, siblings?
I have two younger sisters, yep.
Yeah. How was that growing up with two sisters?
It was great. We had just a great childhood. I love my parents, awesome people, great providers for us. And but having the two sisters, it was kind of like I had a little brother and a sister, because Amy was a tomboy. She was 2 years younger than me, and she loved sports just as much or more than I did. So her and I would be out in the yard playing ball, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever. And then Jenny Lynn was a little younger, and she was into Girl Scouts and everything. But, at that age, when, in the early 80s, we were just busy all the time. We were always involved in sports. My dad coached us. And that's actually kind of how the Someburros came about, is because my parents, had a passion for great Mexican food coming from Panchos, but there was nowhere to get like really good Mexican food quickly. And so that's kind of what their idea was. Like when we're driving from Little League to Pop Warner on a night, there was Taco Bell, Burger King, McDonald's. And so that's kind of when they got the idea for Someburros, because of us crazy kids.
So when you are a kid and you're playing in the yard and doing all this, was sports always something that you were attracted to as a kid, or were you going out and also like adventure? I call it adventure sizing, like playing out in the woods, or no, I guess no woods out here, but out in the desert and building stuff and.
Occasionally, just like every kid wants to build a fort or something like that, we would. But I would say 95% of what we did was sports and athletics. My dad was a professional baseball player, and I just grew up, absolutely loving it. From football in the fall, basketball in the winter, baseball in the spring, swim team in the summer. And just kind of went on with that. And that was my passion. And I wanted to be a pro baseball player when I grew up.
And you came pretty darn close, didn't you?
Yeah, I actually played 1 year of pro ball. I played college baseball at Pepperdine and then ASU. And then after finishing at ASU, I just had the itch to just try pro ball, and I played 1 year independent ball, and it was enough for me to say, all right, I'm not going to make the big leagues, but I'm so glad I got that closure, got to have that experience, and kind of achieve that goal.
That's it's interesting how you put that together, because when I see it from my perspective with a lot of the rock bands that I worked with, these guys, they get maybe a record deal, they go on tour, they get a taste of the road, and they're kind of like, yeah, that was cool. You know, I don't think we're going to be the next Madonna or whatever it is, but yeah, but that's great. You have that memory, you have, you know what it was like. And now you're able to kind of understand, what it is that Cam's going through a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. It is like that transition, with my son being, he's 21 now. He's going to be a junior at University of San Diego, and him playing baseball, he's starting to get into his business classes and really enjoy it, and really wanting to think about after baseball what he's going to do. And it's cool to see that transformation for him, because when I was that age, I was going through that same thing. I was taking classes at ASU, playing baseball, but working at Someburros. And what I was learning in my management classes at ASU were directly relating to what was going on at Someburros. And all of a sudden that passion just clicked. And that's when I knew, like, once baseball is done, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
What an amazing setup. Just
worked out great.
Right there, just a softball right to you.
Yeah, and I do remember in high school, everyone's like, are you going to, work for your dad when you're older, Someburros? And I was like, no way. That's not what I had no idea that's what I wanted to do. And my dad never pressured us. It was always just like, you guys go pursue whatever you want. And then it just kind of all fell into place.
I can completely relate.
I'm sure.
You gonna go sell insurance? I'm all over it. Woo!
Sounds fun.
Yeah, that's why I went to go work for Warner Brothers, and then what happened after that is what happened. But we all find our destiny, and through all the inner workings of our lives, I honestly know that we end up where we need to be. Based on where our minds are at that time. How did you go from Pepperdine to ASU? What happened with all that?
So that's actually a great story. I have my, Disney version story I can tell you, or I could tell you, the actual truth, what had happened.
Oh, give me the truth, yeah.
Well, the truth is, I met my wife in kindergarten. We were in kindergarten together. We didn't start dating then, but we did start dating summer after 8th grade, dated all through high school. We went to Corona del Sol High School, sweethearts, and then I made the tough decision that I was going to go off to the West Coast to Pepperdine to play baseball. She went down to U of A. I had a great year. She had a great year. We came back that summer, and she got pregnant, and I had something to do with that. Her getting pregnant. And so we just, we knew we wanted to be married at some point, and so we just knew we had to make changes, and that's when I made the decision to transfer to ASU to play ball, and she came up and transferred to MCC and studied childhood development. And, I could go on the whole story about, us finding out the news, and it was heartbreaking as a 19-year-old thinking about, what are my parents going to think? What are my coaches going to think? What are my teachers and everybody who loves us in the community? Tim Vasquez and Julie Minetti are having a baby at 20 years old. But what I thought was the worst day of my life was the best day of my life, because 9 months later, that brought my daughter Isabel into the world. It had Julie and we got married a few months later, and never looked back. It was such a difficult time for a short time, but it's worked out to be the biggest blessing in our lives.
That's absolutely amazing story, and if you're listening to this, to just even see in Tim's eyes how he even expresses that story, which I'm sure he's told a million times over, it's just very fresh, very raw. It's very loving. So that's cool. Thank you for sharing that. Julie, you guys been married 24 years?
Yeah, 24 years.
Yeah, so
24 years of bliss.
And if you follow Tim on Facebook, or if you happen to be friends with him or understand the family dynamics, to watch him and Julie together it's just like best friends going through a journey together.
I'm blessed to say, if you believe in soulmates or whatever, I really believe we are, and we've been a part of each other's lives more than we haven't. So we've been together so long, and raised 3 great kids that are doing great things. And so she's definitely the one behind the scenes when I'm out, on Facebook or, doing stuff for Someburros and getting all the attention, all the credit. She's really the one that deserves all the credit for what she does for us behind the scenes.
Yeah. And I love that, because as I met my wife when I turned 40, it took me a little while to mature and kind of get to that point.
Right.
But it's the same sort of thing. It's a soulmate. You know, it's somebody that you just love doing all that stuff with, and you just never look back. It's like, this is cool. This is what's meant to be.
That's right. Yep.
So that means I will live till I'm about 180 because I got, got more time to spend. But the fact that, we talk about, family, and I know how important it is to you, everything from your work family to your family. So we'd be remiss not to talk about, your kids. And so you talk about Isabel, she's your oldest, and I know she just got married.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that experience because, we're not going to get into really the day and age of what's going on here, but there is some analytics to the fact that she was supposed to get married in front of 300 people, and it got dialed down to 50 or something.
Yeah, about 25. Yeah, Isabel, she's named after my grandmother Isabel, who was also a very passionate lady in herself, and Isabel is just like my grandmother Isabel, and she's just been a leader. She was like student body president at Campo and Campo Verde High School, went on to ASU, and just super smart girl. Met her fiance, Tommy Hudson, who was a tight end at ASU. And they just fell in love, quickly got engaged. And then we had this huge wedding planned at Schnepp's Farms in the Big Red Barn. And then COVID hit, and gradually our numbers got whittled down. And you want to talk about awkward is when you have to uninvite people from a wedding, and you have to do that in stages. So certain people get uninvited at the beginning, and then other people. But, Izzy and Tommy were just so amazing throughout it. They're very humble, and they wanted to make sure that our immediate family and their grandparents could be there. My dad was the officiant of the wedding. And so we ended up moving it to Flagstaff outdoors, and it was like one of the, if not the most beautiful days of my life. And it was just meant to be the way it happened. And it wasn't how we had it planned, but just like life, things don't go the way they plan. The way you have planned, they just go the way they're supposed to go, and it was great.
Now, is she going to stay in Arizona, or are they moving?
So they moved to Tennessee because he plays with the Tennessee Titans right now, and she is they're there now. She's actually home visiting this week, but he's there now, and he's on the practice squad of the Titans, and hoping to get that call up, and but they're starting their life together, and I'm super proud of him. He's an awesome young man.
You like Tennessee?
I love Nashville. I don't know what Nashville's like right now with COVID, but she lived there for a year after college, and we visited her a lot. And at my first time going to Nashville, I'm like, I don't know, honky tonk, whatever. Like I didn't go to bed till 3 a.m, 3 nights in a row. And usually I go to bed at 9, p.m. Yeah. So it's just such a great town. The music, and it's not just all country, it's all kinds of music. And yeah, I fell in love with Nashville just like she did.
That's great.
She said it's a lot different now though, but.
Yeah. Well, all in due time, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about Cam. He's playing baseball.
Yeah. Camden's, he's our little warrior. He grew up just kind of like I did, just all sports all the time, ESPN on all the time. And then he had a kind of a nasty football injury in high school. And then that's when he decided to focus on baseball only, and got a chance to play University of San Diego, and just has had a great couple of years there. Met some great friends, awesome coaches. Their season got cut short last year, but he got to just have a great start to the season. So now he's back there, and he's healthy and doing good and doing what he loves. But like I said, he's starting to get into the business mind and want to talk to, on car rides, he wants to talk about interest rates and housing and that sort of thing. And it's really cool because all our car conversations have always been about, football, baseball, basketball. And it's cool that he has this other interest that he's really getting into, and who knows where it'll lead. But, right now, he's just enjoying school, enjoying learning.
Yeah, he'll get into Roth accounts and probably all that other stuff.
Here. Oh, yeah. He's had questions about all that kind of stuff already. But right now, he's living in an apartment on the beach in San Diego, so I'm kind of living vicariously through him.
Well, you can visit, right?
Yeah, I do a lot.
You do. And my goodness, Chef Cody, wow.
Yeah.
What a outstanding young man. I mean, and I feel like I've watched him as a little kid just grow within the last 5 years, just seeing him on Facebook, and all the things that he's done. So share some of the accolades that he's been able to do.
Well, thanks for asking about the family too. Cody's an amazing kid. I still remember when he was about 5, I signed him up for soccer because Camden was into sports all the time. So I signed Cody up for soccer and to be the coach, and pulled the wagon to the park, and he didn't want to get out of the wagon the whole time. And then he never got out for the whole practice. And he's like, Dad, I should have told you that sports make me want to puke. And so I was like, well, I wish you would have told me before I signed up to coach, but that's okay. What are you passionate about? And he said, I love cooking. I love baking. I love gardening. I love nature. So he just started pursuing that in his own way. And Julie, loved having him around to cook, and it kind of evolved. And he won a cooking contest when he was 11. So he got to go to the White House and cook for Michelle Obama. And then that same summer, he was on the Food Network on the Kids Baking Championship. And his whole world kind of blew up from there. And he, he was kind of our little local celebrity in Gilbert for a while, and that was really cool. But now he's found his niche in student council and politics, and he's the student body president at Campo Verde, and great grades. He's way smarter than Julie, me, Izzy, and Camden combined. We don't know where he got that from, but now he's working on where he's going to go to college, and he's just an awesome kid to be around, not just smart, but personable, and I keep talking about him, but super proud of all of my kids and very proud of Cody too.
Yeah, as you should be. I mean, that's for a parent to be able to have, the amount of love for your family, and to be so proud of, how they're growing up and what they're doing, especially in this day and age, is amazing. And what a cool hobby for him to have, cooking and baking, and I'm sure a little bit's come through your, parents and grandparents and stuff like that. And so to pick all that up is great. He has an item on the menu at Someburros as well, doesn't he? Yeah,
Cody's Vegan Tacos. Yeah. It's a tortilla with homemade guacamole, whole pinto beans, lettuce, and tomato. And he's been vegan for about 4 or 5 years now, which was pretty amazing. We thought it was just kind of like a fad when it started, and then he gradually eliminated fish, and then he was vegetarian, and then got to full vegan. And he knows like the the nutrition that he needs. So he eats his, nuts and all that kind of stuff to get his protein, but he understands it. He loves it. And, it makes doing dishes after dinner a lot, because we have Cody's pan and everybody else's pan. But we should learn from him, because he's the healthiest, the smartest, has the most energy, has everything. And he eats just stuff that's good for him, where we don't, but I don't know. I envy him for that.
Well, Cody, I've had your vegan tacos, and they're good.
Good.
So, and Casey, you can eat those as well. Casey's vegan.
You're vegan too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're really good.
So, yeah, that's great. I think a lot of people, sometimes they, without going into restaurants and understanding, just maybe seeing them from afar and not actually going in, they really miss out on some of the really cool little intricacies of what you're able to develop over time.
Yeah, and doing that for Cody as a vegan, it was important too, because we go to restaurants with him, and when either he has to totally deconstruct a menu item to make it vegan because they don't offer anything, it's so much better when restaurants have a vegan option. And it might only be, a $7 item, but our whole family of 5 will go there because they have that option for Cody. And so that's why we thought we need something like that on our menu as well.
Yeah, very cool. I have a couple of vegan restaurants that I'll share with you after this that I think you would thoroughly enjoy.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's cool. So, okay, so you're wearing a donkey suit. You're out on the street.
Yes.
Were you sign flipping, or what were you doing?
We had a sign that just said, pretty creative. It said, "Eat at Someburros." That's what it said. I don't think we had a marketing team behind that one. And I dressed in the donkey costume in 1986, and Amy would dress as a little mariachi next to me, and we would stand on the street corner in the summer and sweat our tails off and wave cars in.
That's great.
Yeah. People would honk at me and call me jackass, and I could take it though. As long as I got a free burrito when I was done, I was happy.
Yeah, you were good. So you got paid by burritos.
I got paid by burritos, and horchata.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And as you had mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, Panchos was your grandparents or your parents' first restaurant, but your grandparents' recipes?
Yeah, my grandparents in combination with their son, George, who's my dad, and then my uncle Ralph. So my Pancho and Isabel were my grandparents, and then their boys, George and Ralph. And so they opened Panchos on Central and Baseline in 1972. So they're coming up on 50 years here.
50 years. Yeah. Wow. How often do you get over there?
Not as much as I'd like to. Nothing in my life seems to take me over there. But if I'm ever within a 15-mile radius of that area, I always pop in for lunch. The food is amazing. It's the same recipes as Someburros, but something about the the feel and the atmosphere in Panchos is just something special. I mean, it used to be their house, so they lived in the house, and then the front of it, they made a takeout. And so then gradually they got busy enough where they moved out of the house, opened it up. So when you're sitting in one of their dining rooms, it was actually a bedroom before or something like that. So it's got just a great feel to it.
Is there like a 30-year employee there or something? Or?
Oh, I think more. Some of them have been since we opened.
That's absolutely amazing.
Which, it is. It's a great place. Even all their pots and pans, like the seasoning on them and everything, they're just so seasoned, and it's definitely special. You know, they've had their battles during this time with the pandemic, and going from full restaurant back to takeout, which was kind of full circle back to their roots of just being takeout only. But they're still kicking out there and doing very well.
That's great. And my assumption is George is probably in there all the time. Or?
Yeah, he's very active. We are trying as a family to pull him away from there because we want to see him, golfing, relaxing. I know you can relate to this, but I mean, I think what it really comes down to is he loves being down there. He loves the people, he loves the customers, he loves his employees. And so even though he lives in way South Chandler now and takes him 45 minutes to get there, he's still there several days a week, just kind of checking in with everyone and making sure it's going okay, and helping them navigate these tough times too.
So there's something very synergetic about this that I want to kind of sidebar on, because you just met my dad, and my dad works in the insurance agency, and he's been doing this for 50 years. And, he has a hobby, which is, making his muscles big and getting on stage. But he's still, for me, I don't know, and I don't know if it's for you in the same way. Like, we talk about wanting our parents, and in this case, we'll talk about our dads, to have a relaxing, life. Because they've worked so hard and they've done all this, and whether it be golf or working out or this and that. But is there part of you that it's also kind of like, I really want my dad kind of involved, so that there's still that purpose and that need for him to feel like he's needed.
Absolutely, yeah. And I do feel like that my dad gets that satisfied some with Panchos, but also with Someburros. I mean, we have an office. He has an office in there, and for him to come in, from you meeting him, I mean, the charisma and just the energy that he has around him just can brighten a room. So every time he walks in, I mean, he's not in there every day by any means, but a couple days a week when he walks in, the whole place knows that they love him. And it's just cool that walking history of Someburros still comes to the office every day, and, tinkers around behind his desk and, works on some stuff, files some papers, but just his presence there is like, you can't even put a number on how important that is for our company.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, so you go from donkey outfit to going in, washing dishes, probably making food, all that sort of, and we're talking, years of development, you and Amy, and when does the time come? How many locations are you at where it's like, Tim, here's the Holy Grail, here's the key, run the place? Yeah,
it was a long, gradual process, and I think I had to prove myself to my dad that it wasn't just a job for me, and I was going to go on to something else. And it could have been at age 20 when I started, but I think that he really saw that the skills that I had, one thing that I took from my ASU business classes and just the way my mind works is Someburros, when I came into it, was a place where everybody was specialized. Like, our cook's name was Margarita, and she was the only one that knew how to make the green chili and the red chili. And Renee, the general manager, who's still with us, she was the only one that knew how to do ordering and certain tasks. And so my first mission in the restaurant was to say, okay, let's make these not where one person knows how to do it, but let's create a system where this is just how you make the green chili. And then we could train somebody else in case Margarita wants a day off. We can train somebody else how to make the green chili. And so it was going through every aspect of the restaurant to find the one best way to do everything. And so that was my passion. And I think once we established that, then I went to work with my dad on let's open another one, because he had a great life at the time. I mean, he had a thriving restaurant in Panchos, a thriving restaurant in Someburros that took a long time for him and my mom to build up, and a lot of, blood, sweat, and tears for them to do that. But he had it going where he wanted to. And he was able to get off at 3 to go to me and my sister's, sporting events in high school. And so he didn't want the brain damage of another restaurant. But I did. I always thought of the movie Tommy Boy. Like, I don't want to just be Tommy Boy and just like go work for my dad's restaurant in the drive-thru every day. I wanted to find a way to make my mark on it. Yeah. So it was through me kind of talking to him like, we can do this. This isn't some magic we have on mill and baseline. We can take this, copy it, and put it somewhere else. So it was through a good friend of his, the late J.D. Schluter, who was our commercial real estate broker, found this property on Cooper and Baseline. And so we finally opened in 2002. So we went 16 years from Someburros #1 to Someburros #2. And then once we got that one up and rolling and it was doing good, then that copy and paste model started to come into my mind again. So then we found our Chandler location. And it was about at this time that I was probably much more involved in the hands-on type stuff.
Right.
And I think my dad recognized it. And I was started to say, like, let's talk about like a succession plan and that sort of thing. And he was gracious enough, not just him, I always say him, but him and my mom, to say, you know what, Tim deserves this. So it was a long process, the succession, and also include my sisters too, and getting some ownership. So it was never like a day, even when we signed all the papers, like, it's here you go. It's kind of, and it's still, not even like that. I like thinking of it as we're a team and we're all kind of working together.
I love how you bring up the fact that you had to create systems and you had to create, and I went to ASU Business School as well. And here's what's ironic about that is that my son is now going to U of A.
I saw that on Facebook.
Yeah,
actually.
so I just stroked a check for him to sit in a room and play on the computer.
You wrote a check to U of A. That had to be hard to do.
It was very hard. So I went to business class, but I listened to about how you have that young energy, you and your sisters that to come in and that you have something great. It's fresh. It's an extension of Panchos, but more in a casual sort of atmosphere where people, anybody can just come and grab something and do that sort of thing. And you wanted to come in there and you wanted to let Arizona know that, hey, this is awesome. And we're going to put more of these out there.
Yes.
And we're going to figure this out.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about family and how you guys are all invested, your family is not just your actual blood related family. Your family are these employees, are these people that you've brought up. And I've seen this firsthand because I got to, be a part of the Golden Burros, the awards that you guys do. And just to see 400 plus people all in this, big room, and you're up there emceeing, and having fun, and your parents are there, and your sisters, and everybody, but you're giving the accolades and the respect and the credit due to those that are in the back line, and you call them family.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, our Vasquez family is a much smaller part of the Someburros familia than we ever were. Before, it was just our family, and now it is Renee, Daniela, Johnny, Kevin, all these people, I could go on and on, that work for us, that treat the restaurants as though they're their own. We can't be in the restaurants all the time like we used to say, there's not enough lettuce on that tostada, there's not enough cheese on that burrito. But they all treat it like their own. They all treat the customers with, the respect, and they all are a part of, the Someburros familia, we call it. And we absolutely would not be able to grow at another Someburros if it wasn't for these people who treat it like it's their own. And so we like it because we're able to give them opportunities to grow and opportunities to move up. But at the same time, they love it because, a lot of our general managers, they have the name on the front door that this is, Alma Velasquez's store, and she takes pride in it like it is her own. But it is challenging. I mean, when we would go from one location to the next in the early days, we would open one and I would say, we're never opening another restaurant. We're never doing that again. And then about a year or so would pass, and we'd kind of get our feet under us, and we'd say, okay. And then I'd kind of start looking around at new locations, but there was never a plan of like, we want 10 by this year, we want 5 by this year. It was like, let's make sure the food is as good as it's ever been. Let's make sure the service is good as it's ever been. And then, okay, I think we got it. Let's take a look at doing another one. Up until about 3 years ago, where now we have the team in place where we're going to start growing a little bit more rapidly. We've opened 3 in the last 3 years, and we kind of have planned to open some more, but it's only because we have those employees that are willing to do it and wanting to do it.
And how important is it for you to stay in Arizona?
For me, I'm good with Arizona. Like, for me personally, like I love being with my family. I'm not a big guy like I want to have a job where I travel or anything like that. I want to be here, but we have some very young, ambitious people in our organization that there's talk of Denver, there's talk of Salt Lake City, there's talk of San Diego. And once we kind of saturate Arizona a little bit more and add a few more locations, if they have the passion, the desire to grow it out of the state, I'm not going to stand in their way. I'll support them, and we'll take that next jump. But
that's cool.
For me, I'm more than content right now doing exactly what we're doing.
Yeah. And your locations are absolutely beautiful. For people that have not been, it's, the artistry that goes into them and the care, and, it's just, it's not fast food,
right?
It's come hang out and have a nice meal.
And we think about it as like, we want to be that restaurant where, a guy working construction can come in for a quick burrito at lunch, or on the way home from work, you can pick up food. But we also want to be that place that has that feel you talk about, where a Friday night, a family says, where do we want to go out for dinner on a Friday night? You're not going to, no offense to Taco Bell, but you're not going to go have a family dinner in Taco Bell. It doesn't feel like the right feel. We want it to still be nice enough inside where you can bring, the Little League team in, or the parents after the high school football game, and go have a beer and a margarita and still enjoy it. And my sister Amy, I give her so much credit for the way the restaurants look inside. Every family picture that's in there, every knickknack that she bought, everything that she meticulously put on the shelves, that's all Amy, and a lot of her personality comes through in that, and just family's so important to her, and it definitely shows in how she decorates the restaurants.
A lot of pride in that, and it does definitely show. And then I bet you were excited to get that ASU location open.
Yes. Yeah. That ASU location is awesome. It's not as awesome sales wise right now because there's no students at ASU, but it is. I mean, I just, kind of filled me with pride. And for anybody that's gone to ASU, that area at Rural and Apache and Jerry's Liquors and all those things. So it just seems so cool to be a part of that ASU community.
You can drive down there any other month and be like, where did that 5-story building come from? It's just absolutely nuts. Now, getting back into the family of Someburros, a lot of that has to do with your vendors, and I know that you've utilized a lot of the same people over the years due to relationships and stuff like that. And so, knowing where the food's coming from, knowing what then the people that are making it and all that. I mean, that's huge because let's bring up Taco Bell again. Why not? I mean. There's just a lot of bags of stuff that people are eating that don't necessarily know what they're eating. Right. And, here you guys are, this local family. I mean, you got people in there, making stuff. And that's huge.
It is. And our vendors are, when we usually call them partners. I mean, they are our partners, just like you're one of our partners. But like our Someburros Spice Company, Sterling Meats, these are companies we've been doing business with for 34 years. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, we get emails and knocks on the door and calls all the time from spice companies that can beat their price. But for us, it's not about beating somebody's price. It's about the quality of the product. And we haven't found better spices than we get from them. We haven't found better quality meats than we get from Sterling. So until then, and it drives the big broadliners like U.S. Foods and Cisco crazy because they want to point to all this money they could save us and, get rid of all these mom and pop vendors, but that's not us. That's not who we are. So and that's one of the reasons staying in Arizona is important to me. I see, some of our vendors' little trucks that they show up in, and I don't think that could make it all the way to Colorado. So, but in reality, those, just as our employees are so important and our team members are so important for our growth, our vendors have been just as integral, and we're probably overly loyal to them, and that, but when somebody comes in, an outside vendor wanting our business, they got to do something above and beyond to take business from somebody that we've been doing stuff with for years and years. Yeah, no, you definitely do feel that, especially within your organization, and that being said, as this podcast goes on, it does sound like a version of Disneyland, and I'm telling you, people, this is the reality of it. This place and this family is this good. So as we get more into that sort of item, I want to talk about all the giving that you guys do, because again, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that. I mean, right now, even in this time, you're giving away a lot of food to healthcare workers and teachers, and I mean, all sorts of. So, I mean, obviously, you're a very loving person. You care about people. You want to do that from the bottom of your heart. What was the antithesis, or how did all that come together of how you wanted to launch that out? Well, I think a lot of it starts with the culture that my parents created when they opened. I mean, when we opened Someburros in '86, we didn't have a great business going, and we didn't have money to spare, but still I'd go to the Little League fields, and Someburros Mexican food is on the back of the jerseys because Someburros sponsors the Little League. Even though we probably barely had money to pay rent, we're still giving back to the community in those ways, and school functions and that sort of thing. So I think it's the only way I've known, because my mom is probably the most generous, giving person on the planet that I've ever met. And so they kind of just instilled that into us, and it's never been more important to us than it is now, because it was a scare. When COVID started in March, and we didn't know which way things were going to go for us. We didn't know if we would have a business, 6 months down the road. And fortunately, things went to where takeouts and drive-thrus were the thing. And so we were fortunate. We were definitely down in sales from last year, but not where we could be. And so that's where we just felt like the community that we've given back to over the years saw that we were hurting. And so the outpouring of support that we got from friends and family and people, I get choked up thinking about it. Everybody who ordered Someburros seemed like they took a picture of their food and posted it on social media to say, we're supporting this local family business. And that meant the world to us as a family. And so when we made it out of it and we're like, okay, we're going to be okay. It's like, okay, how do we not just pay this back? How do we pay it forward? So we did the 5,000 free burritos at Diablo Stadium in what seemed like the hottest day in May ever, but it was awesome. And our employees who were out there all donated their time as we gave that food away. And then just today, we're doing free food for any teachers. Just bring your credentials in today. And it's just a way to give back. I know teachers are going through a hard time right now, converting between Zoom and online and a little bit. It's not a factual story exactly, but the main character is my Nana Isabel, and very cool. Yeah, it's a great little story.
Yeah, and talking about Isabel, let's talk about Isabel Zamora, which is your it's your restaurant. Yes. So you got all these Someburros going on, and now you're like, it was you and your wife, right, Julie? You guys were kind of like, we kind of want to do like a full service.
Yeah.
And so were you guys just sitting at the dinner table like, let's do this?
It kind of comes back. I remember being at a restaurant in San Diego years ago when Jenny graduated from college, and it was a higher end Mexican food restaurant. They had all the great tequilas, fresh margaritas, and really good food. Yeah. And I just always thought that would just be so cool to do someday. And then, we got in the position where Someburros was doing well, but Julie she comes from a family of the restaurant business too, and she kind of had that in her heart to, take part in a little bit. So we got the idea to open Isabel Zamora, which is Isabel's love, named after my grandmother. And it was kind of our neighborhood cafe. It still is. It's about a mile from our house. And I am a huge foodie, love eating at restaurants all over the place, and I can say Isabel Zamora is my all-time favorite restaurant. Just the feeling that you have when you walk in there, you can just feel it, and the culture from the staff. And my Nana's pictures are hanging up in the restaurant, and the food is amazing, the drinks are amazing, but we wanted it to feel like you're eating at my grandmother's house, and the hospitality that a grandmother having her family over would, that feeling, we wanted that for our customers as well. And so I think we have that, and it's just great. It's homemade tortillas, carnitas, tortas. It's different than the menu at Someburros. The beans are the same, the hot sauce is the same, but a lot of the menu items are different, and it's kind of a unique place, very small, but kind of a niche place on Bell Vista and Williamsfield.
I remember when it was under construction.
I remember meeting you over there.
Absolutely crazy. Yeah, I remember that meeting. Yep. It's absolutely beautiful. It's making me hungry just listening to this. So let's talk a little bit about you and your hobbies and what you personally like when you have a little bit of time off. I know you like to go to Flagstaff. So you guys, kind of hiking around and doing some fun stuff. But what is Tim? What makes up Tim at the end of the day?
It's kind of gone in phases. Like when Camden was younger, like I was into coaching, and, my favorite thing was to coach him in Little League and club ball, and then coached at the high school level. And I thought, once I have Someburros where I got it, I'm going to stop and I'm going to coach high school baseball. And that was my passion for a long time. And I really thought that's what I was going to do. But I've fallen in love with working at Someburros again. I've always have been, but I love going to work every day. So that is my main passion that I have right now, is getting in there and being with the people in our company. Outside of that, family is just so important to me. So finding ways to spend time with family, whether that is in Flagstaff and getting up there and hiking, or going, kayaking with Cody or whatever, those are my favorite things to do. And probably my favorite hobby is going out to dinner with Julie and, trying a new place or going to one of Crispy Uncle's restaurants or whatever. Those are, that's our hobby, drinking wine and eating food.
Yeah, no.
Probably not good for the waistline, but good for the soul.
Well, let's talk about that. So as I do this podcast and I interview restaurateurs or foodies or restaurant, anybody kind of related in that with the Bar Restaurant Podcast, I'm also getting more into my personal branding, and I'll be releasing an ebook called F It. So it's the 3F system. So I want to hear from you, because you're an ex-athlete, and so I know that there's that inner working that's still there. So yes, you like to go out to eat. Obviously, you can only control. Well, you can't control really anything when you go out to eat. You just kind of go and there's the menu, and maybe I can make some changes. But at the end of the day, if it's got this oil in it, it is what it is.
Yeah.
That's getting a little bit too in the weeds. I guess my point being is you're not out of shape. You still have a athletic body.
Right. Yeah.
You work, a lot in a Mexican food restaurant.
Right. Yeah.
So what do you do to balance that out to kind of keep healthy and as we get, more into our 40s and realizing we got to do blood tests and all this other stuff, what is it for you? What are your mechanisms?
I'm very driven by working out towards a goal, whether it's working out just to not get fat is it doesn't work for me. It's not that motivating because I have a wife. She loves me if I'm fat or not. So there's no pressure there. But I found a couple years ago, I did a Spartan race, and that was one of the most motivated I've ever been to work out, because you have an end date of I'm working toward the Spartan race in February. So starting in, July the year before, it's I'm working out every day now hard. Yeah. So that day doesn't suck, any worse than it already has to.
Right.
And then it ended up being one of the greatest days of my life because you just feel so awesome at the end of it. And so those are the things that really motivate me. I know as I get older now, some of the Spartan race climbing and heavy lifting and stuff, I don't know. Well, your dad's in amazing shape, but I don't know if I'll be there. But triathlons, I think, are going to be my next thing. Probably the sprints to start.
Yeah,
but
that's
love
great.
Biking. I don't love running, but I love biking and swimming, and I'll probably just tough out the running part. But I need that. I need to sign up for something, and then I need to work toward that. Yep.
Yeah, you're not alone in that. I mean, it's the same with my dad and his shows. He has to have a show or something to plan on, although he loves to work out. Right. I mean, I'm sure you'll still go out and do something, every once in a while to get the blood flowing. But having that end goal, for me, it's races. I love doing trail races. I mean, this whole Corona thing's really screwed all that shit up because it's I just want to run a trail race outdoors with other people. So, but no, I love that. That's a great answer. And that's really your humanness and people getting to know you as a busy entrepreneur in an industry that's traditionally, not that healthy.
Right.
So it's tough. I think the last aspect of that, because we got into food and fitness, tell me about your focus aspect. Do you take time to calm your mind, and whether that be sit down and play a little guitar, whether that be just, lay down and listen to soothing music or meditate, or what's your thing?
It's probably yoga, and I'm not Mr. Yogi or anything. My wife is fantastic at yoga, and she's great. She's a yoga instructor, and I'll go with her sometimes, or just do it, on Apple TV or something. But sometimes it's hard to click play on that or drive. But once you do it, I've never done yoga, and at the end of it, been oh, I wish I didn't do that. You always feel amazing at the end, and just that time of where you're not just thinking about anything, but but getting through it. And then also at the end of it, just that Shavasana time where you're just laying there, not thinking about anything, not thinking about what you have to do that day or whatever. That's probably the best thing for me, but I will fully admit I need to do more of that kind of stuff, because you always feel great after, but sometimes it's well, I'm too busy to do that. But you're too busy to do that because your mind's racing all the time. You have to make the time to do that. And so that is definitely one of my goals for this year, is just to take the time to do that type of stuff.
It's, for me, as I learn and I hear from others, there's always going to be, we all have that same 24 hours, and we've heard it a million times over. And it's it's just how we structure those 24 hours and what becomes at that time when you are ready for it, when it becomes that important. And sometimes I may have 5 minutes where I just sit there, and that's all I have. And sometimes I may lay there for 40 minutes and go through and I'm traveling other worlds, and I get out and I feel great. And it's like, whoa, that's cool. I didn't think about somebody's policy for, 5 minutes. So.
Well, and you're motivating too. I'll get up sometimes at, 6 in the morning and I'm just sitting, lazy having my coffee, and you're coming off a 6 mile run. I'm like, dang, Delo's he's already got 6 miles under his belt.
That is a paid sponsorship. No, thank you. That's very flattering. It's awesome.
With the hair in full glory.
Yep.
There it is.
Made a shirt with it, running with the Delo. So, no, that's awesome. Well, this has been amazing. I have a few rapid fire questions for you. So, see if you're ready. Flagstaff or San Diego?
Flagstaff.
Okay.
Good question, though.
Yeah.
Tough question.
It is a tough question.
Yes.
My wife and I love it up there, too. Travis Tritt or Hank Williams Jr.?
Hank Williams Jr., but they're probably both over my head.
Yeah. Sushi or Cajun food?
Sushi.
Okay. If you could have a superpower, would it be to be able to levitate or invisibility?
Invisibility. I love just stalking people, and that would be ideal.
Is that what Facebook is?
Yeah, I do it all the time.
Fine dining or a sports bar?
Ooh. It depends on the mood, but I'd probably go fine dining. Yeah, but that makes me sound snobby, and not snobby.
Nah,
just
not snobby.
I feel like there's a mix. This sounds like advertising for Chris Bianco, but Pizzeria Bianco. To me, that's not fine dining. It's just the most amazing, home cooked food, and so that type of restaurant is my favorite.
Yeah, it's like hip fine dining.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You're right.
Corona or Dos Equis?
Dos Equis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Star Wars or the Blues Brothers?
Star Wars.
Okay.
I love Star Wars. Not as much as you, but I do love Star Wars.
I do have issues. Fastball or curveball?
Curveball for me. Okay. When you only throw 84, it's got to be the curveball.
And I think I know the answer to this because you alluded into it before. But would you rather run a half marathon or swim 2 miles?
Oh, 2 miles is far, but I think I'd rather swim 2 miles.
Yeah.
If I could make it, if somebody doesn't have to pull me out of the water at the end.
With sharks or?
Oh, heck no. No, that'd have to be in a lake or a pool or something.
That's awesome. Well, this has been a blast. I love hanging out with you. I'm glad I could finally finagle you to come up to the office because I know how busy you are. And you do have a location right down the road from us, which is awesome. And we ordered for one of my employees' 1-year anniversary. What's funny is that employee I had been trying to get for 11 years.
Oh, really?
And she is now, kind of taking over my dad's clients and helping,
That's
Talked
awesome.
about our
That's
fathers
awesome.
Skirting into, so it's great. I'm more of the restaurant bar guy. Home and auto it's amazing. It's a great way to make a living. My dad's done it, and we have a great book of business to do it. But it's just not like, hey, what's the auto? I'm
right.
Like, no, I'm cool. Live your passion again.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? Where do you want them to find you?
Me personally,
wise or what?
Someburros is, our website is great, someburros.com. Definitely follow us on Instagram and Facebook. If you sign up for our text list, we do like crazy whisper deals like once every 2 weeks where if you're on our text list, it's like $2 burritos or something, but it's only for the people that subscribe. But for me, I'm on Instagram at TimmyV93 and Twitter at TimmyV1993. I feel like I'm pretty funny and witty on Twitter.
You are pretty
witty. I mean, my kids block me because they say I'm annoying. So, but no, I love the social media. And I was also going to say, I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate, just knowing you, everybody in the restaurant business. We just referred to you as, the Oprah of the restaurant and bar business. And, but you do know everybody. We know a lot of the same people, and it's awesome in hard times too, to know that we can go to you and be like, man, we're struggling. Is everybody else struggling with this or whatever? And you just have a pulse on what's going on with everybody. And so appreciate that and appreciate your friendship.
Yeah. Thank you. And I appreciate everything that, you guys do. So this was nice to have you here. All right, we're done kissing each other's ass. Let's.
Yep.
So, thank you everybody for listening. This is the Bar Restaurant Podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, all that sort of stuff. Please give it a 5-star because Tim is absolutely amazing, and all the guests that we have on are absolutely amazing. Arizona local, and sign up for the bar and restaurant podcast list to win some amazing prizes. Maybe we'll even get a Someburros prize in the raffle.
We can make that happen. I know someone.
You know somebody? That would be very cool. And thanks everybody for listening. And until next time, peace out.